Hi, I'm Barry Ostrowski. At RWJ Barnabas Health, we believe that everyone needs to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support the important educational programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the Northward Center, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, the Russell Berry Foundation, Suez, water solutions to meet tomorrow's environmental challenges, and by Wells Fargo, promotional support provided by Insider NJ, and by Meadowlands Chamber, building connections, driving business growth.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. Everything you've ever wanted to know about the Statue of Liberty. Ellis Island, the gentleman in the house will tell you. He is Steve Briganti, President and CEO of Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island Foundation. Good to see you, my friend, my paisano.
Nice to be here.
All right, tell folks, we were just doing this. Where's your family from in Italy?
Well, we call it Basilicata.
Basilicata is how my family would say
Okay,
it.
we'll compromise on that.
Exactly. Our family's from Naples. I tell you, my grandfather came here, Luigi Calvello, 1919. He comes to Ellis Island like countless others, right?
Millions of others.
Millions. Why, not just his experience, but the millions who came in from so many other countries come through Ellis Island. Why is it so important, and why is there a museum now?
Well, it's so important because it's where part of the country was populated from. This was their first steps in America, their first sign of, for many, freedom. Ellis Island was built as a station to receive people. And so for us, those of us who are the heirs of the Ellis Islanders, it's a romantic place because it's where our family started in America.
So you come in on those ships, those massive ships, and you see the Statue of Liberty. My grandfather used to speak to me in Italian and talk to me about this. You've talked to many immigrants who come here. What do they say that statue meant and means to them?
Arrival of freedom, opportunity. They'd come to this country for many, many reasons, but those were amongst the primary ones. And every picture you see of those ships sailing into New York Harbor, everybody rushes to the side to see the Statue of Liberty because that was their first sight of America. And that's what they had heard about at home. You'll see the Statue of Liberty, you're free. You'll see the Statue of Liberty, you're free. The ships actually went into Manhattan. They didn't dock at Ellis Island because it wasn't deep enough for them. And the steerage class people, of which most of us were,
that's right,
got off, put on a barge.
They couldn't afford anything else.
They couldn't, and got taken over to Ellis Island where they were processed. Now,
and they got a lot of names wrong, by the way, but I'm not going to talk about that. Oh, what town are you from? Yeah, well, that's your new last name.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of the names were changed by the people themselves.
Really?
But not at Ellis Island.
To quote, I hate to say this, to Americanize them?
In many cases, yeah.
Because?
Because they thought they wanted to be Americans and that they should therefore have an American name. Now, my family didn't do that, and I guess yours didn't either.
Ours did not.
But, and it didn't happen at Ellis Island. Common myth. It happened about 7 years later when they became citizens. That's when they changed.
And the vast majority did.
And the vast majority did.
Let's do this. We're taping this program in the summer of 2019. This museum has opened. Describe the museum as we take a look at it. What are we looking at?
Well, there's the front. It's a brand new museum, opened on May 16th at the Statue of on Liberty Island.
This is the Statue of Liberty Museum.
This is the Statue of Liberty Museum. This is the story of the history of the Statue of Liberty. And why build this? Well, after 9/11, the number of people that could get inside the statue was limited.
Right.
And so we had built in the 80s a really nice little museum inside the statue, but most people couldn't see it. 4.5 million people come to Statue of Liberty every year. So we felt, as the National Park, we're partners with the National Park Service, that we needed to tell the story, and that the story had expanded about liberty since we restored the statue in the 1980s. Therefore, the Statue of Liberty Museum. Not an easy place to build a building, by the way, and not a lot of land and water all around it.
What are people seeing when they go there?
Well, first of all, they come in if they...
I remember seeing this. I was there for an event recently. Do you see the suitcases of people who came?
Yes, you do. But that's
amazing.
at Ellis.
That's at Ellis?
Yeah, this is at Liberty. And you come into the building, if you come in the right way, you go through this immersive theater, which connects you with the history of the statue and brings it up to the present.
Is it interactive?
Yes, very
Like you
interactive.
Listen and you see pictures?
Well, you listen, the sound is over, you're
Sure.
encompassed by the sound. You see pictures. One time only drone flights around the statue, will probably never be allowed again, to take pictures that no one has ever seen before of the statue from different positions. You leave the theater, you go through 3 units of the theater, and you come into the area of exhibitry, exploring liberty, imagining liberty, the workshop of Bartholdi, pictures of the workshop of Bartholdi. How did the statue come from being a reasonably well-accepted thing, lighthouse maybe some people thought, to become the national symbol? That's what the story is all about.
There's a story there.
There's a story.
An important one.
And a very important one. And not only the national symbol of freedom, the international symbol.
I'm curious about something, Steve. We didn't bring you here to talk politics.
Oh, no.
Even though you have a relative who is, let's just say, involved in politics. Is that Mayor de Blasio?
Yes.
He's a relative.
He's another Basilicantan.
See? How about this? Is this museum, is this exhibit, is this discussion, Steve, even more important today given the heated and often contentious debate and discussion about immigration in our country today?
I think so. We are a nonprofit organization. All of our money comes from the private sector. We raised about $1 billion to do the work we've done at Liberty and Ellis. And we try to stay away from politics. But obviously, you can't. So what do we do to compensate for that? We have a team of historians that guide us, guide our exhibitry people. We try to tell the story of immigration as it happened, whether it was right or wrong, or whether it is right or wrong at the moment, I have personal feelings about it, which I'm not going to discuss with you, but what we will do is tell the story. You know that in 1924, okay, we had enough of those Italians.
There was like, that's it.
That's it. Close the door.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And they put the quotas, they didn't actually close the door, they put the quotas back to 1880 when the Italians weren't coming. Same thing for the Eastern Europeans.
So de facto, you couldn't get in.
You couldn't get in. So immigration has had its ups and its downs.
It's always been controversial.
It's always been controversial.
I remember my grandfather would tell me there were an awful lot of folks who were, just say, not Italians. Well, he was an American, very proud to be. And during the war, he would talk about Mussolini was doing what he was doing in Italy. And my grandfather was like, no, we're American.
Yeah.
We're not with him. We're with the United States. But he would often wonder why so many people were so against so many Italians coming here. And it sounds like
they were different.
It's not that much different than the conversation
not now,
today.
Not now.
Everyone says, oh, yeah, it was so different. Was it?
Yes.
I mean,
they looked different. They dressed differently.
No, what I'm saying is the same debate's been going on.
The same debate. Exactly the same debate. Exactly the same
Well,
debate.
we're better off because Steve Briganti's in the house. He is the president and CEO of Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island Museum. You started back in what did the foundation, what did Lee Iacocca ask you to do this?
Yes.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Well done, Steve. I'm not one-on-one. This is one-on-one. We're the Steves, and it's worth checking out that story. Go visit. Be right back.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to be joined by Nancy Kislin, who is the author of a compelling, powerful, and important book. It's called Lockdown: talking to your kids about school violence. He's also a adolescent and family psychotherapist. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, I say fully disclose. I'm going to fully disclose. We have 4 children. From 8, our daughter, 16, 14, and then a 26-year-old from my first marriage who's a teacher. All of them talk about this issue. All of them ask questions about it. First of all, what is the lockdown issue / problem as it relates to schools and parents and kids? What's not being shared here?
What's wonderful is that your kids talk about it. What I find is that so many children aren't talking about it at home, and many parents just don't know what it is. So
What's it?
So it is, we've come up with, as a country, ways we have to keep our kids safe, right? It's a dangerous world out there. How do we keep our children safe? So people came up with, okay, we need to do these monthly lockdown drills. In 32 states around the country, it's mandated that once a month there's lockdown drills.
It's the law.
In 32 states.
Okay, what happens, though?
So there's several kinds of lockdown drills. There's the most popular is called lockdown drill. Depending on the school, it'll either have a code red, it'll come over the loudspeaker, or you will hear lockdown, lockdown. And that's the code for the teacher to run to the door, open the doorway, gather any kids who are right around, lock the door, and go through the procedure. It all ends with 2 things happening. Either the children hiding in a broom closet under desks. Many children all across the country don't know if it's a drill or the real thing.
Wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. Nancy, how do they not, I'm confused. How do they not know if it's a drill or a real? How is that not communicated?
Because there's a philosophy in our country right now that we need to put our children through this, that it's helpful for them if they don't know if it's a drill or the real thing, because they think it'll help prepare them in case when the shooter does come. As far as I found, there's no research supporting that, and I believe that it's unnecessarily traumatizing a generation of children.
But hold on, you're saying there's no evidence, clinical evidence, research to back it up, but public policy is based on it. The decisions in schools based on it. Based on what?
This is part of the conversation that I'm trying to have. Exactly that we need to bring in the emotional and mental health of our children. Yes, we need to keep our children safe. Yes, we need to have some kind of drills. But we also need to look at the traumatization that it's causing.
Are they being traumatized?
I totally believe that many children. For example, Isabel's mom came up to one of the programs where I was doing, and she told me this story, that her 15-year-old daughter was en route from the bathroom back to her classroom. Now, the children, teens, are told what to do if you are in the bathroom. When a drill happens, you put your feet on the toilet and you hide in the stall. If you're in the hallway, you are to run to the nearest classroom and try and get into that classroom. The problem is that the teachers are instructed that open the door to the hallway, gather any children that are right there, and then lock the door.
What happens if a kid is banging on the door and the teachers lock the door and told not to let anyone in? There's a disconnect.
Exactly. So Isabel went to several doors, and when the drill was finally over, she was found in a fetal, I get upset every time, she was found in a fetal position, crying hysterical, and has not returned back to school. I know this as an example because I work with teens and children every day in my practice, and I see kids and I hear kids who are so anxious and so traumatized, but it's not hopeless. This is something we can help them.
We can change this. By the way, if you're listening on the audio side, Nancy Kislin is the author of a book called Lockdown, Talking to Your Kids About School Violence. She's a psychotherapist, adolescent and family issues. So what do we need to do? We're about to put a graphic up that gives some advice to parents, but what should public policy change? Should these procedures change, Nancy?
I think we certainly need to look into how are we and who are making these. But I think since this is the reality right now for millions of children, we need to, my message is to talk to these parents. You need to first know what these drills are. You need to find out what is your school protocol, what are they based on, and how do you get informed?
So Nancy, I'm sorry for interrupting. Let's break this down. How to talk to your kids about school lockdown drills. Take a look. Share stories about the day. It opens up the conversation, not about the lockdown, just break down the day, right?
Right, like, oh, this happened to me in school today, and that way it takes the kid off the defensive and opens up a conversation, not a lecture, not my parent drilling me.
I'm curious about this one. Tell your children, I am here. I am here. But I am here, wait a minute, but they're in a drill. We're not really there.
No, no, what it is that I am here to talk to.
Okay.
And not only am I here to talk to, I am going to help you develop resiliency skills. Okay, you're going once a month and you're hiding in that closet and you're in 2nd grade or 15 and hiding under your desk. What is your kid doing? I go through in the book of how to teach your child basic mindfulness, breathing techniques, things that I have seen working with kids for years, that you give them something to do that grounds them, that feels like they have some sense of control. Is better than just not talking about this at all.
But Nancy, the other thing is there are a whole lot of parents who don't even know this is happening. A and B, you say, and I don't know, Georgette, is it in the second graphic? You say parents need to go assertively and have conversations with school officials about these drills. By the way, make it a priority, there it is, right there. Ask open-ended questions. What does that mean? I'm a student of questions. What's the difference?
How did you decide that it's helpful to have once-a-month drills? More important, how did you decide that your kids are not going to be told that it's a drill? And 3, a big one is, please email the parents at the end of the day that there was a drill so that when you pick up your children from school, please know that your kid might have been hiding for 45 minutes in a cubby, not knowing if they were going to live or die.
I just need to make this clear, then the public school system we are in, the school system does do that. The teachers directly do that, along with the superintendent office. Okay, and also stay in contact with the teachers, right?
Yes.
Because?
Well, this is also important, it's 2 answers there. One is, I believe that our teachers and our school administrations are not being trained in how to work with kids, how to use less traumatizing language, all kinds of things. So I feel terrible for the teachers. When I do teachers' workshops, the teachers are so traumatized themselves. We know that trauma is different for every different person, right? So we don't know who's being triggered, and how does that teacher even know how to help that child?
And we need to train teachers to do this as well.
That's part of it.
You've done important work. You're doing important work, and you made a difference in your time here in public broadcasting in FiOS and on the audio side. It's called Lockdown, talking to your kids about school violence, and the author is Nancy Kislin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Come back anytime.
Thank you.
We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Hi, Steve Adubato coming to you from Newark, New Jersey. This is the North Ward Center. We just finished a very important discussion on the subject of autism. It's actually technically called Autism, a Different Way of Thinking. One person who's been thinking, talking, writing, and helping in the field of autism is Dr. Kate Fiske, author of a fascinating book called Autism in the Family, Understanding and Supporting Parents and Siblings. Also the Associate Director of
the Douglas Developmental Disabilities Center
at the wonderful Rutgers University.
Yes.
Doctor, the main theme of your book is?
The main theme of my book is focusing on the experiences of parents and siblings who are raising together a child with autism. And what makes this book different from other texts out there, because there's a lot of books that focus on parents' experiences, is that it's written specifically for professionals who are working with those family members. In my career, I often run into family members who will express that maybe they don't get the level of empathy or compassion from the professionals that they're working with that they would like. And so I've done a lot of work with the professionals I work with, the young professionals, graduate students, to help build that sense of empathy and understanding by having parents come and speak to them about their experiences. But I really wanted to take those parent panels, and reach a much broader stage. And so I wrote the book for professionals in any field working with individuals with autism, so teachers, psychologists, medical professionals, to help them better understand from diagnosis through adulthood the impact that autism has on parents' stress levels, mental health, and well-being.
Describe it. Describe the level of stress we're talking about.
It is, by all accounts, research and from parents themselves, it's a level of stress that's beyond any other parenting group. And it's not a huge surprise given what you're talking about with autism, right? These are children who have difficulty communicating their wants and needs. These are children who don't have difficulty necessarily connecting with their parents, but connect in different ways than other children do. And also there is just oftentimes challenging behavior. So a lot of parents will talk about aggressions or disruptions, both of which can contribute to a much higher level of stress for parents.
There's also, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
I've often wondered when I've seen parents with a child who it appears to me, but again, my doctorate's not in the same field as your area, but I will say, with a child, right, who is dealing with autism, is there an embarrassment factor?
There certainly is, and we're talking about a broad spectrum here.
And not always. I'm just saying, could there be? That's
There certainly could be.
That.
These are parents who are and siblings. The embarrassment factor plays out there as well.
For the siblings?
For siblings being embarrassed about their brother or sister's behaviors in public, right? So if they're going out into public, into a restaurant or to a party, and their sibling behaves differently than maybe other children do, that can be a source of embarrassment for siblings, and they talk about that. As adults, I have adult siblings who will reflect back on their childhood and talk about, feelings of embarrassment, but also other more complicated and positive feelings, like being very proud of what it is that their brother or sister has been able to accomplish. But certainly those feelings of embarrassment.
But what is it? It's interesting. You talked about empathy and compassion. Can you teach it?
That is our goal. So I work with graduate students at Rutgers University to help build up, to help teach professionals those pieces of empathy, compassion, what it looks like from a professional who is exhibiting those behaviors towards somebody. I also collaborate with Bridget Taylor at Alpine here in New Jersey as well. She's working on a similar curriculum for her staff to build that sense of empathy, compassion, so that parents feel more supported, they feel more heard, essentially. I think that oftentimes we're so focused on the child with autism and the work we need to do with them that we're not listening to parents' experiences and what they have to say about the emotional piece of raising a child with autism, which is pretty significant.
The other issue that came up in our panel discussion that you understand quite well is the urban-suburban dichotomy in terms of diagnosis, treatment, et cetera. There's a model program that you make reference to in the city of Newark?
Sure.
What is that program?
It is, it's a new model preschool program for children with autism in Newark Public Schools. So Newark Public Schools has committed to developing this model preschool program using the science of applied behavior analysis, ABA, to teach their students.
ABA is, for those of us who don't understand the field very well, ABA is? It's
the science of breaking down behavior into small, observable pieces and teaching the skills that we want to see. So we talk about social skills, that's so broad. And we're really bringing it down to how do I teach a child to engage in eye contact with somebody else, right? And maintain eye contact in a conversation.
How about listening?
Sure, you can certainly.
Is that part of the?
It could be, yeah. It could be any behavior that you would want to target. You just have the key to it is really defining what the behavior is that you want to see, and then using the basic principles of behavior that are in our everyday environment for you and me, rewards and consequences that might maintain those behaviors over time. And
so what's the program, though? I want to understand it.
So in the preschool?
Yeah.
So in the preschool, we're looking at the obviously the youngest learners within Newark Public Schools, and identifying what are the very early skills that they need to develop that will make them successful as they continue through Newark Public Schools. And the hope is that this program will continue to grow as these children age. So it's not intended to be just a preschool program. Over time, it will expand. But that's where we'll start. And we're really at that age looking at kind of the learning readiness skills that these children need, right? So how do they, learn to listen to a teacher, attend to peers, and engage in those educational skills that make so many children ready to learn, right? But we want to make sure that we're doing it in a setting that really embodies the science of ABA, also in a very naturalistic way.
Naturalistic meaning?
Naturalistic meaning we're looking at those skills in the context of play and education, right? So we want to make sure that we're not just kind of teaching these very young children in kind of these tabletop tasks, that we're taking the science of ABA as it's meant to be, spanning across both educational settings, but also these more naturalistic settings where they're learning how to interact with peers, teachers, parents, in the settings where they would engage in those.
Before we finish,
sure.
You wrote this book because, on a personal level, and not simply as an academic, as a scholar. Why'd you write it personally?
I wrote that book personally because of the families that I've worked with.
Is it personal for you now?
It is. I mean, certainly the work that I do with families and the work that I do for their children, I have a hard time not kind of, empathizing. Talk
about empathy.
Exactly, right? And so I sometimes kind of have to put on my scientist hat and look at it very objectively, but I have a tendency to kind of connect. And that's what I want to make sure that I'm teaching my students to do, whether it's when they're working directly with a family or whether they're working in a classroom in a training situation, that we're building those skills as well.
Well done. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the Northward Center, New Jersey Sharing Network, the Russell Berry Foundation, Suez, and by Wells Fargo. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by Meadowlands Chamber. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Hi, I'm Judge Michael Giles. As a trauma surgeon, my son, Randy, saved lives every day of his career. When he unexpectedly passed away at the age of 43, Randy continued to save lives as an organ and tissue donor. The New Jersey Sharing Network was with us when Randy gave the gift of life. They are committed to saving lives through organ and tissue donation and educating the public about the importance of donation and transplantation.